Good
Hey,
question.
everybody.
Hello. Hello there,
Hi.
Mario.
How are you?
Doing well.
Hello. Hi.
Baisa, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you doing? Nice to see you again.
Good to see you. You look beautiful between those two plants.
Thank you. Yeah, I set up two plants
About the
today.
plans, yeah.
Hey, I look beautiful too with my plant. It's, it's everybody
You.
here.
You too.
And the ladies here made me come up with plants and paintings and things so I could,
Except your background looks nice.
because it was pretty
great.
boring before.
Joanna, I want to just interrupt. Joanna, can you spotlight both Mario and Baisa? And Mario, have you met Joanna?
No.
No.
I didn't think so. I know we're like, you guys
Oh,
are,
there you are.
you're like raring to go, which I love. It's
Wonderful. And this Lauren also. Hey, Lauren, how are you?
Yeah, so Lauren is new. I haven't even met Lauren yet. So hi, Lauren. Lauren is a new course host. And so she's just watching how we do this. She's in learning mode. And Joanna and I have worked together before. She's a host. And so she's driving all this. But I just wanted to make sure everyone knew who everybody was, because you come into these meetings and there's all these new faces.
And Joanna will be Mario's host for the course.
Awesome.
Wonderful.
Thank you. I wasn't.
That's great.
Yeah.
Glad to hear that.
Yeah. So
Thank
you
you
get
for
to
the
meet her
intro.
early.
Yeah, thank you, Dana, for the intro.
You're welcome.
It's a pleasure to
Handing
meet
it back
you,
over to you.
Mario. Wonderful. It's a pleasure to meet you, Mario. I'm happy to be supporting you today. And Baisakhi, is it Baisakhi or did I pronounce that
Yeah,
correctly?
Baisakhi. It's not Baisa.
Okay, beautiful. Baisakhi, beautiful. I am excited to be driving this session today. So it looks like, both of you are pretty set up for this session, for this bonus recording. And yeah, if you feel inclined to start or, take any time to prepare yourself, feel free to, or discuss anything beforehand. But I'm going to be in the background to just support.
Yeah, let me just mention something briefly, Baisa. We're just like you and I talked, and what we're going to do is discuss. What I'm going to do is bring in how culture shapes our behavior, our worthiness, and you certainly have gone through many experiences of having to deal with different cultures, and I have too. So I'm going to bring in anthropology into the longevity component of how we break
Right.
away from tribes and then how we thrive as an individual. Basically, is the idea.
Right.
So
Okay.
we're fine with it. Okay, great.
Mario, about 30 minutes, like the other one.
Yeah.
Do
Yeah,
you
be
need,
all right.
so if so, I think what we did the other day is a little just kind of, she came on screen to give you a little like, hey, we're nearing the end, which I think worked really well. So Joanna can do that just if you're, so you have that presence of the time, and then you can wrap it up. I mean, you can go a few minutes over. It's totally fine.
Yeah.
So you're there.
You want me to call you Baisa or Baisakhi?
Baisakhi.
Baisakhi, okay. All right.
Okay.
Yeah, in emails, Baisa is fine, but in the video,
right.
it's better to say Baisakhi.
Yes. Okay. You're better known that way.
Lola
All
has
right.
something to ask. Go ahead, Lola.
Mario, do you have gallery view on?
Let's see.
On the upper right corner, you can
Yeah.
change it from gallery to speaker, and that will help you to focus.
Yeah, it's
in
on speaker now.
center. Okay, much better, so that you'll just be the two of you and your eyes will just stream more towards center.
Yes. Okay.
Great, thank you, Lola. Wonderful. Okay, and so it sounds like you two are in agreement about what you two are going to discuss. I'm going to turn off my video now, and whenever you feel ready to start, just go ahead and start, okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Hello, Baisakhi. I'm so good to see you again.
Hello, Dr. Martinez. I'm so happy to be with you here on yet another recording. So thank you for having me in your course and inviting me to this session.
Well, thank you. I think what we can do because in general, my course is going to be about healthy longevity and the immune system. We can talk a lot about the anthropology of cultures, the prejudice of cultures, and the understanding of how cultures basically shape our self-esteem and our worthiness, which has to do then with our longevity. Low self-esteem will actually lead to people having low immunity. So
Right.
I'll just mention a few things, and then I think it would be good if we can talk a little bit about the experiences that we've had in our lives and how that shaped us into actually becoming stronger individuals. But
Right.
one of the things that I want to talk about is that prejudice, for example, prejudice is not a monopoly to whites or blacks or Indians, or prejudice is a human flaw. And initially
Right.
it's necessary because you have to, back hundreds of thousands of years, you have to, if you're not part of our group, then you could be the enemy. But what happens is that we pass on these tribal kinds of things even to modern times. So you would think that that it's over now after all these years. And usually, for example, in the United States, the last migration, the last immigrants that come into the country, or the most recent, are the ones who are going to be prejudiced. They started with the Germans, and then the Irish, the Italians, the Spanish, the Asians, and on and on. So it's a human flaw that needs to be worked on as individuals. Native Americans, there's no such thing as Native Americans. 10,000 years ago, there were no any Americans. I think I like the Canadian description better, which is First Nation. First Nation makes sense because that's the First Nation. The Native Americans would enslave people when they were taking over tribes. The last country to make slavery illegal was an African country. So you see, it's a human nature type of thing, but it's a flaw that needs to be worked out. So what happens is that, remember your story, you were telling me that when you were a little girl, you would look at yourself in the mirror and say, I'm so beautiful, I'm so beautiful. Then you were confronted with other cultures and they say, no, not only you're not so beautiful, you're different. and I remember when I was going to school in Madrid, and I was modeling, I was doing some modeling, and this was way back. And then I went back to Miami where I grew up, and I went to a modeling agency, and I was really excited because I was bringing my portfolio from a really good agency. And they said, well, that's very nice, but we're looking for the surfer look. I said, what is that? I said, well, you're not blonde and you don't have blue eyes. I said, well, but the initial surfers were from Peru and Hawaii. They're not blonde. Well, I'm sorry. You see, that kind of thing. And if you're not careful, you begin to see that as a flaw. You begin to see that as a problem, that what's wrong with me, rather than what's wrong with the prejudice. Also, when I was about 8 or 9, I was living in New York City, and I was living in an Irish-German neighborhood. And of course, I had black hair. And one day I go up to my mother and I said, look, I think I want to dye my hair blonde. And she looked at me and she said, if you want to look like a clown, do it. That was it. She had a really grounding effect because she had self-esteem. But those they're really some impacts that you're having at an early age that affect you. And you're a strong person, and so am I, but it does have a shaping of unworthiness. So
I want to add on to that because you've had all these very interesting experiences, and you've had a mom who was very empowered, and she was there to tell you that don't do this because it won't suit you. You will look like a clown if you dye your hair blonde.
Yes.
But there are a lot of families, where the parents are not as empowered, and they are not there to stop their children from doing crazy things. And dyeing your hair blonde won't harm you physically, or it won't affect your health. But for example, when I was in Central America and South America, women there, they never feel adequate in their own bodies because they have these standards of beauty, for example. And, when I went clothes shopping in Venezuela, I would be shocked to see these mannequins with exaggerated assets, and I am like, that's not real. And those mannequins will be standing outside clothes shops. And young girls growing up, when they look at those mannequins, they think this is the beauty parameter. And if I don't look like this, then I am not enough. I am not good enough. And then they go under the knife. They do all these surgeries. In fact, it was so shocking to me to see that every second person on the road, every second woman, to be more precise, has a boob job done or has a breast implant, and even low income households, they prioritize plastic surgery over domestic expenses. So it's that bad, and of course, we all know the health repercussions of these kind of procedures. So as a woman, the topic of beauty has always affected me. And having lived in different cultures across the world, I just realized that, the beauty standards, beauty parameters are so different from one country to another country. And the girls in their own culture try so hard to fit into their society and to look like how people want them to be. For example, in India, if you have a dark skin, then no matter how beautiful features you have, you are still not beautiful. And there are actually cosmetic products, like there is a product called Fair and Lovely, and you apply that product to look fairer. And that is supposed to be more appealing to the opposite gender. And
Yes.
it's funny because when I went to Africa, they have a cream called Dark and Lovely. So in Africa, they actually celebrate that darkness, so they're like, you are dark, but you're lovely. But in India, it's like, if you are dark, you are ugly. So if you are fair, then you are lovely.
And that confuses the immune system tremendously, because the immune system will respond to what you believe.
Yeah.
For example, Botox, it's being used quite a bit, and the immune system and the nervous and endocrine system will respond to facial expressions. If you're happy, you have certain muscles moving. If you're unhappy, certain muscles, then it'll respond to that. And some studies have been done that look at Botox, and it takes the immune system a few seconds longer to identify, because you have had some nerves that have been deadened for a while. So it's a confusion. At that level. At the other level is that if you have a sense of worthiness, but only a sense of worthiness if you can be like people who are not like you, that's also a confusion to your belief system. It's also a confusion to your nervous system. So it has implications in the psychoneuroimmunological component, and it has implications in your longevity, because you're feeling like there's something wrong with you. And unless you become something that you're not going to be fitting. And that is a typical formula for having an unhealthy life.
Yes, it's very true, because, as you say, that the immune system is a confirmer of your consciousness. So outside you may have all this beauty, but inside, if you don't feel beautiful, you know that your beauty is fake, for example, it affects your health, and it affects your mindset, everything. And if you don't have a free mind, if your mind has all these things, that will also affect your body, because the mind and body are connected.
And beauty is one of the components. The other one is the placebo or the nocebo effect. I shall harm or I shall heal. And in some places in Peru and in other areas in South America, there's a lot of malnutrition. And what they've done is that if you are white, you're the highest level of socioeconomics. Then if you're a mixture of white and Indian or natives, you're a mestizo, you're second. Then the third is the Indian or the native. Well, since there's a lot of malnutrition, then you have anemia. If you have anemia and you're white or you're mestizo, which you identify with a white, you go to the doctor and they'll check you out, you'll get B12, whatever, and you're fine. If you're an Indian and the shaman diagnoses you with limpu, a terminal illness, no amount of Western medical intervention will help you and you will die. Because limpu means that a stillborn came out, the spirit came out when the child died, and it went into your body and it consumes your body so it can stay on earth and then it can go to another body. So it's very interesting, but look at the socioeconomics then. They, in Bolivia is where it happened mostly, the government gave an agrarian reform, and they gave land to the Indians. So then the Indians or the natives went up socioeconomically, and then the mestizos could no longer identify with the whites because the Indians had more socioeconomics. When the mestizos started getting sick and having anemia, they would also die like the Indians, where before they wouldn't, because they identified themselves with the white. Look at the power of identification.
Yes, yes, totally. Totally, I agree with that. And I want to bring in a small example here because this is a personal experience. So I knew this guy who had ADHD, and he was on a lot of pills, you know, Ritalin and Adderall and all those pills since childhood, because he was diagnosed with ADHD, and he had a really volatile temperament, and he would have these anger outbursts and stuff like that. And he really believed he had a disorder, you know, and all his life he was trying to prove himself to society. And, you know, when I met him, I could not see any dysfunction in him because he was so special. I think he didn't even complete school, but by the age of 25 something, he was like a very rich dude with a lot of businesses across the US, you know. And I told him that stop looking at yourself as if you have a disease because you're so intelligent. And he even sometimes communicated telepathically. So I felt he had this inner gift, you know, but all his life he was made to believe that there was something wrong with him. And he died with that belief that he was not good enough, and he was trying to prove himself. In fact, I wrote a book about this, which is being published soon. And I always felt that society had done him so much injustice by giving him that tag of a disorder, which he was carrying since childhood. And he died at the age of 30.
Yes, Picasso was dyslexic, and they thought he was retarded because he got very bored reading. Well, what happened with Picasso? Rockefeller, dyslexic.
All-time genius.
Yes, yeah. And what happens is that they shape you into nothingness rather than allowing you to grow. So one of the things that I want to do in the course is to teach that whatever we learn and we individuate whatever we learn, it has to be supported by a subculture. If not, you go back to a tribe and you lose all the therapeutic gains. So what we're going to do is create a subculture of wellness so that people can maintain the gains, because in my work, but also Ellen Langer, my colleague at Harvard, has done a lot of work in that area. And she finds that you can either do some very interesting things about anti-aging. You can change how people look within a week by the way that the things that you do, but they can lose it within a few weeks when they go back to the portal of the grandpa, the mommy, or that it's lost. So we're going to make sure in the course that we're going to teach changes, paradigm changes, but with the ability to retain, because we're social beings. We need to have someone confirm our reality to a certain point. And you don't need, because people have asked me, well, isn't a subgroup or a subculture also a tribe? No, the difference is that a subculture will support and respect your individuality. They're not like you. They just respect your individuality. And that's the subculture of wellness that we want to create.
Yeah, I think that's really powerful because, you know, like when I was traveling across the world in different cultures, I didn't have like a subculture to help me, and I would often go into depression. In fact, whenever I come to India, I lose my health. I get sick, something or the other happens, and it never happens when I'm outside of India. And I feel this dense energy, and the culture here is so overwhelming, especially because I am from this culture, so I cannot even escape this culture. But when I'm in other cultures, you know, somehow, you know, if I don't like something, I can escape because I'm a foreigner. But here I can't because I am an Indian. And it's very hard for me to sometimes sustain that subculture thing that you are talking about. And, you know, in my mind, I have to tell myself that, you know, this is not your truth. That is your truth. And sometimes to keep my sanity, I have to connect with my, you know, for example, my landlady in Costa Rica, who is a Mexican, and she understands me. So here I'm sitting in India and I feel like I'm going crazy and nobody here understands me. Then I speak with her and then she validates my consciousness that I prefer to be in, and then I feel like, okay, I'm not crazy.
Next time it happens, you can call me and we'll get it worked out. It's not a problem.
Oh, that would be lovely. Thank you for that.
But that's a very important issue that you're mentioning here. Our culture, let me define a culture, because people talk about culture. Culture is basically the collective beliefs about everything that's important: aesthetics, ethics, longevity, wellness. So those beliefs are really important.
And religion also.
Yeah, very much. And that is a cultural belief. And that's your fabric. So you can get away from your fabric, but when you go back to your fabric, it's so strong and so powerful in the way they admonish you back into the tribe that it's a constant battle, and you're aware of it. And it's good, because if you're not aware of it, you come right back in and you fall back into the cultural beliefs. Living in Nashville, I've worked with a lot of country music stars, and especially the ones that come from very humble backgrounds. They, at first, when they become famous and they go back home, oh, the hero, how wonderful. After a while, then they have to admonish them and say, oh, so you had a little time to see us now, the big star from Nashville. And some of them, what they do in order to come back to the tribe is they fail. They become alcoholics or drug addicts, or they do something stupid to lose their contracts, and then they go back and then they're accepted. The tribes will always the tribe will always welcome you back as a failure. When you come in.
Oh my God, I so connect with this. It's so true. When I'm in India, my productivity goes down like this. My creativity, my novel ideas in the work that I do, I'm always feeling so down and like devoid of energy. And when I am in that state, then I can connect with the people here. And when I talk to people about something positive going on in my life, or, I'm going here, going there, most people can't connect with that. So I cannot speak about that aspect of mine with them. But when I'm feeling down and depressed and things are not working for me, that's when I connect the most with people.
They
so
love
that's
you
like what you said, your failure is approved in your culture. But if you have that inclusive narcissism, which you talk about, then you are the one to be avoided.
Yes, because there is a model of what a woman should be. And yes. A woman should not be very uppity or very successful, and you have to keep it down. My grandmother would say, after 40, women should just stand behind the door and pray. There's some countries in Europe that at 55, the social services will give you a cane because you're going to need it eventually.
Oh.
And these
so
people
they are telling you that you are going to become frail.
And you're going to walk with a cane, and many of them walk with a cane without needing it. So I can't overemphasize the power that the culture has over your genes. Your culture will kill you before your genes, but it can also heal you if you take the best from the culture and then you individuate. Because India has some tremendous wisdom, but it has to be taken into the individual. Otherwise, then it doesn't work. Like Spanish and the French and all Africa, all of them have it. But the point is, you don't have to buy it without digesting it. You have to digest it. So you take some and you let some go. Otherwise, you will be a pawn. And pawns don't live very long.
True. And I think, that's what I have done over the years. Like, I take those things which resonate with me, with my inner being. Like, I feel this is right. This is not trying to contract me. So if there is something that is trying to expand my consciousness, then, I automatically resonate with that. So there are some things good in my culture, which, as you said, I take that. But the things that I don't like, I don't identify with it. But I do this out of practice because I've had to stay in so many different cultures. And so many times I have had to make myself small to fit into the mold of other cultures. It's not always that I was able to live with a lot of freedom. Sure. And those times when I had to shrink myself were very painful. And only when I see these cultures where, they allow me to be who I am, they allow me to expand myself, my consciousness. Those are the cultures I want to go back to. Those are the cultures I want to, make friends with.
And support your excellence. And
Yes,
that's very important.
exactly. Support my
needs
excellence.
to be supported. And there's something in psychology, it's called the characteristics or the types of influences that an environment or a context has for you. It has affordances, and affordances means that if a chair is very cold and metallic, it's not going to be as cozy as a chair that is upholstered. So those are affordances. Right. And then you make attributions to things. So a very simple experiment. They have a receptionist. They tell you that it's going to be something different than what they're really measuring. The receptionist will receive the person, and you have two groups. One person, they tell them, "Oh, I'm so glad you're here. You go to room number 4, and that's it." And they go there, and then they test blood pressure and levels of stress and so forth. The other group, the receptionist is already set up to say, "Are you okay? Yeah. What do you mean? No, I just wonder if you're okay." And then that group, when they go to the door, the person at the door will also say, "Are you okay? Yeah." The receptionist asked me the same thing. "Is there anything wrong?" "No, I don't know." They do that. The people that are programmed into not feeling well, their blood pressure goes up, norepinephrine goes up, the stress goes up, inflammatory molecules go up. The other people are fine. So those attributions, those demand characteristics that are called, that's happening daily at a cultural level, and you're not aware, so you're in the fishbowl, what I call the fishbowl. You don't know that, right. There's something beyond that. So we have to individuate, and that's what the course is about, to teach you, independent of where you come from. All cultures are set to be collectivist. The Asians are more collectivist than the Western, but they're all collectivists to a certain degree.
Yes, totally true, and like you said, the collective is really strong. And I think, what I call it is the mass mind. And the mass mind is programmed into believing in fear, in disease, in accidents, in all the bad things that you read in the news. It's in the mass mind. And if you want to, disconnect from that and individuate and don't allow that programming to drive your life, then you can find yourself pretty much alone.
Yes, very lonely because there's no support. And the reason is this, psychologically, the reason is that if you come into a culture and you learn what is excellence and you learn what excellence usually collectivist, but then you go out and you surpass, the only options that they have is either to assume that what you have to offer is better and you can do it, or there's something wrong with you and I don't have to change. And they usually go with better. I don't have to change. So there's something wrong with you. So leave me alone and don't tell me that you're getting better, because that's not acceptable. And those are the psychological nuances that go on. And after a while, you begin to believe it. I guess there's something wrong with me. And I guess I better acquiesce, and I better get used to things. And that's when you begin to break down. Because what happens is that the people in the fishbowl, they don't know they're in the fishbowl. So it doesn't hurt them as much. It hurts them, but not as much. When you leave and you know that there's something beyond the fishbowl and you come back, that's when you're hurt the most.
So true. People actually think if you have gone out and you've explored all this, you are immune to the hurt. But that's not true, because when you come back, it hurts you even more, because now you cannot connect with anyone. It's like you don't belong. And I've had that experience. Sometimes it's been so hard to maintain my sanity, And you are very right about that thing, and how the culture diminishes your brilliance, basically.
Very much. And
it's like you cannot even talk about it, because everyone is looking at you with a condescending look, like, hey, you are not better than us.
You speak a different language that affects them. But there's a technique that I will use in the course to deal with that belongingness, because belongingness really is, the terrain of belongingness is, I have permission to be here. I have permission to be
Right.
Indian. I have the permission to be in a fraternity or in a job, permission. But we learn that we can only have permission with someone else, not permission with ourselves. So one of the things that
Right.
I did for individuating, and I teach it now, is that you have to learn belongingness of self wherever self is. So you have a belongingness that is not requiring anybody else. When you go somewhere else, you can co-author your belongingness, but when you're alone, you give permission to yourself to be wherever you are. That exercise, and I do it in a contemplative state, so you can learn the brain process and all that. But once you do that, then, okay, I'm not liked by these people, but I am having permission. I'm giving myself permission to be here and to be different. That alone
Correct.
will
Correct.
help, because otherwise we look for it outside, and the culture will never redeem you. Don't ever look for
Yeah.
redemption in your culture, because it's not going to do it. They can't redeem you, because if they redeem you, that means that they're wrong. They're not going to do that. There's got to be
Right.
something wrong with you so they can stay the way they are. And by the way, known misery is less anxiety producing than unknown joy. So
Oh
that's
my God, that is so true. That is so true. You know, I have actually met people who love their misery, no matter how much you tell them, you know, and you, even if you show them a better way, they don't want to take it because they are so comfortable in their misery, and they just love their misery so much. Like you said, known misery. So it's that comfort state, you know, because they think the moment I step out of my misery, then what am I? I don't know anymore. And
no
that's
identity.
scary.
That's right. And people, the last thing that anybody wants to do, and I know you don't do it, but the people that are listening, you never want to identify with your illness. It's not your
Yes.
diabetes, it's not your cancer. It is a condition that's happening that at this moment, there's no cure, but there's many, many opportunities to improve it. And Ellen Langer, also at Harvard, has done quite a bit of research, and she's found that pain, level of insulin, all these things that are considered to be totally physiologically are affected by the context. In one context, you need more insulin. In another one, you need less insulin. Pain, the same thing. I had a patient, and what you do is you have people become aware of what's going on. I had them record from, it's called from 0 to 10, subjective units of pain. And you ask them, okay, 0 is no pain, 10 is the most pain in the world. And when you ask them, they're so global, what is your pain now? 10. Where? All over. They're not discerning. So you ask them to start discerning, and then they find that it's 8 here, 3 there. Just by recording, 60% of the pain goes down. But there was one very interesting that the woman came over, and I said, okay, so what is it? And said, okay, here it was 8, and I was reading the newspaper and I was relaxing, and here was 3, and I was having a conversation with my husband. Then it was 9 over here, and I was going for a walk, and here it was 2, and having a conversation with my husband, and the connection came in that the conversation with her husband was certainly increasing the pain. So those things, that awareness alone is very helpful. The pain is real, but the conceptualization of the pain is personal.
Oh my God. You know, Dr. Martinez, I just love your work so much because you explain it so beautifully. I don't think there is anyone in the world who can explain it so beautifully as you do, because I can connect with every single point that you made here. And I think that's why this course that you're offering is so important for people, because you are giving them tools to handle this. For example, when you tell them that you have to disidentify from the culture, you know, you have to disidentify from the illness. These are things that naturally doesn't occur to a person, you know. If they get a disease, they start thinking, oh my God, what did I do wrong? And like you said, you know, diabetes, cancer, I feel these are just states. It's like a state of your consciousness, state of your some state, and you can definitely get out of that state if you make the effort, you know. But as you said, some people don't want to, and they stay in that disease and they perpetuate that diseased consciousness, and the culture enforces uh, emphasizes that, you know, it's like you, it makes you addicted to your medicines. And sometimes if you don't have your medicine, you start panicking, like, oh my
Yes.
God.
The secondary gains have been studied, quite called secondary gains in medicine, but there's another one that I want to talk about. The secondary gain is that you are a caretaker, for example, and you've taken care of everybody and there's no time for you. Then you get cancer. All of a sudden you have access to experts in medicine. People take care of you. That's a secondary gain. Unless you work through some of that secondary gain and say, I am going to be independent whether I have an illness or not, it's not gonna be better.
It's not going to be better.
The second one, which is not the secondary gains as being studied, the second one is, what is this illness preventing me from doing that I don't feel worthy of receiving? That's another very important one. And a lot of people, they're not aware. They'll say, for example, I'll ask, what if you didn't have this arthritis, what could you do? Oh, I would love to play tennis. You know right there that there's a helplessness and a sense of unworthiness in addition to the physiology of the arthritis, that person is never going to get better because they don't feel worthy of having the time or the quality of life to be able to play tennis. I have a friend who's an artist, and in his culture, art is not a real job. A real job is working in construction or a carpenter.
Right.
So his father would say, so what are you doing with your hobby? It's not a hobby, it's my profession. No, it's not a profession. Carpenters and plumbers are professions. That's a hobby. He never made any money, although he was an outstanding artist because of that. If it's a hobby, then I can't make money with a hobby, or I can't make this my profession. So look at the implications of the admonitions that we get from cultures.
Oh my God, that's so true. Like here in India, you know, when children are growing up, it is the dream of every parent that their children will either study to become a doctor or an engineer. So if you are a doctor or an engineer, no matter what field you are at, everybody will look at you with utmost respect. But if you are, for example, a nurse or, you know, some of the low, I wouldn't say low because, you know, no job is high or low because every job is needed. But here, those two professions are highly revered, whereas any other profession is not looked at with that much reverence. And that affects the psychology of the children. For example, I know, like in my own family, relatives and all, you know, everybody is trying to be doctor and engineer. And if you're not one of those two, then you are a misfit. And then you have to keep explaining to everybody why you don't want to do that, what they wanted you to do. So it's really hard to listen to your heart or, you know, follow your inner guidance when people all around you are condemning what you are doing. They think you're wasting your time, that you will get nowhere, that you're a failure and things like that.
And also the implicit message is, if you don't do this, you don't have the love from us that you will get if you did it. So then you're deprived. I remember I went to school at University of Madrid and I started medicine, then I moved to psychology, but it was more difficult to get into cinematography than to medicine. Cinematography wasn't the thing. That was it. So you see, the very culture, even academia has the cultures. And they have some great films now and film director because of that, but it was a privilege to be invited to join the small groups of cinematography. Doctors, no big deal. Psychologists, no big deal. So you see how the cultures will shape whatever it is that they want to shape to be valuable or not valuable, but they're not aware of the immunological damage that it does to you and how it affects longevity.
True. I think, you know, maybe someday we can have a planet where cultures can actually provide you with the space to develop your own gifts that you have come here on earth with, because I feel everybody has some gift to offer to the world, but we get so brainwashed by culture, you know. I like to use the metaphor of a painting. I'm like, let's say you are painting the story of your life and somebody comes from behind and smudges your painting with a dash of red. Another person puts a blob of black. Another person comes and whitewashes your painting. And in the end, your painting is messed up because you have allowed everyone else to do your painting. And when you are the artist of your own life and you have not created your own masterpiece, basically.
It's not yours anymore.
It's not yours anymore because it has everyone else's colors but yours.
And I think that in one of my books, I talk about how longevity is culturally learned, and it is. It's not genetics. Genetics only 20%. But there were some studies that went to children who were fourth and fifth grade, and they would ask them, how does a 50-year-old look? And they started walking and talking like an old man, a 50-year-old. So the book's already telling this is what old is. This is is how you have to deal with yourself. And sometimes I'll wear a shirt, a Hollister shirt or Abercrombie, and say, why are you wearing that shirt? You want to look like a teenager? I said, no, I want teenagers to look like me. No, that's not a problem.
That's nice. That's a good answer. That's a good answer.
And that you're being bombarded every single day. No wonder people are so unhappy because of these things that are going on.
Right. It's so true. Like people automatically start changing. You know, if they liked something in their younger years, the way they dress or, you know, the moment they go to midlife, they automatically change it. You know, it's as if it's an unspoken rule that if you are older, then you cannot engage in fashion or you cannot engage in creativity, you know, and I find that so dumb. I'm like, hey, I will go to the grave with my fashion, whatever, you know, I like, but I will not allow people's expectations to dictate what I wear or, you know, how I carry myself.
Of course. And you'll age much slower than people who follow that. My daughter, she went to a very, very good school up to the fifth grade, and it was very preppy and uniforms. And then she goes to another school that's academically outstanding, but it was hippie-ish kind of a place. Within 2 weeks, she went from the preppy, beautiful dress to the torn jeans and the t-shirts, because that's the only way you can be accepted.
Right. And, you know, that's the thing. If in that uniform school, if she wanted to be a hippie, she would be like condemned for it, right? Yes. But here, at least she could be free and express herself, even if both are very, you know, funny.
Yes, I can't say enough, and I know you know it because you've lived it enough, how powerful the cultures are and how you have to look at how you've been shaped and how are you being shaped. And some people say, well, I'm not in that culture anymore. It's in your head and it goes wherever you go. So you have to look at the inner guides that are guiding you into maintaining that culture. A lot of people will say, oh, I'm not like my parents. And then your friends will say, you're just like your parents. You're not aware that you bought it. You're just like your parents. As you grow older, because you buy into it. At first, you're the adolescent rebelling, but then after a while, then you become like your parent and you talk like your parent and you act. And I see it at the gym when I work out. I see people that, how are you doing? The best anthropology is in the locker room. How are you doing? Well, I guess I can't complain for my age. What does that mean?
God. What does that mean exactly?
Yeah. How are you doing? Well, I'm doing fine, but it's too early in the morning to tell. So what they're doing, the brain is listening. The brain says, okay, let me look for compatibility here. Let me find a problem because he's looking for something. That's how the brain works. And you'll find something. And then later you get it confirmed because you say, you see, I knew it was too early. Here it comes.
Oh, wow.
So the attribution.
You know, these examples you are giving, they are very real. You know, they are, of course, funny, but they are so true. People do that all the time and they do it unconsciously. They don't even realize that they are doing it. For example, you know, if you ask someone's age, they will say, I'm 40 years old. And, you know, I'll tell them, you know, don't say you're 40 years old. Say you are 40 years young. You know, if you're 90, say I'm 90 years young. Why would you say I'm 90 years old? What I
do is I recommend not to say your age because we're still not strong enough. If you say you're 40, oh, you look so good. That means that you shouldn't. Or you're 40, that means that you're looking too old. So you lose either way. So
Right.
one centenarian said, look, never tell your age. When you get to 100, lie and tell people that you're 20 years older, but never tell your age. And I see why, because they're
Right.
wanting to shape you. Just like when you go to a doctor, they want to find a diagnosis to reduce their own anxiety. And if they can't find anything wrong, they send you to a psychiatrist or a psychologist. They can't accept the individual with some vagueness. It has to be pegged.
Yeah.
An anxiety disorder, diabetes type 2, now I can relax and I can give you some treatment. So one of the things we do at the Longevity Center in Poland, I'm a consultant there, we ask the doctors never to ask the age until the end of the examination. And they are surprised to see the things that they find by doing that. Because otherwise
Wow.
you're already pegged, and they treat you as if you are, well, this is this, well, what do you want? A friend of mine he's about 80, and he's a doctor, and he went to the doctor because his right knee was hurting. I always mention that, it was amazing. And he says to the doctor, look, my right knee's hurting. He said, well, what do you want for your age? And he said, the same thing that I want from my left knee, which is also 80, and it's not hurting.
Ah, that's a great reply. Wow.
So what do you want for your age is another way of saying, I don't know what's going on. Because aging is not a deteriorating process. Growing older is a passing of time. Aging is what you do with time based on the cultural beliefs that you assimilate. There is some deterioration, but most of it is cultural. Most of it is.
Yeah, and when you see others deteriorating, you automatically start thinking that you will also go that line, and then you go that line.
That's right.
And for you to detach from that, individuate from that, and think, no, that's her experience, and I'm not going to age like that, or I'm not going to, deteriorate like that. Only then you can maintain your health and sanity. But
yes,
like you said, if the culture is so overwhelming, it can be in your own family, among your own friends, then it's very hard to step away from that conditioning, mental conditioning.
And that's what I call aging by observation. So,
okay.
So anyway, this has been wonderful. I know that our time is coming to a close here. And I want to thank you so much for the work that you've done. And you have a huge following on YouTube. You have over 45 million people have viewed your work. And you have a new book coming out from Hay House, I believe, right?
Yeah.
That's my
right.
publisher also. So it's really nice.
Wow, that's amazing that we would have the same publisher.
So I'm really glad that you joined us and that you're going to be a part of this. And now we're friends forever.
Yes, and I'm looking forward to you coming to Costa Rica and doing some events there, because it's a very interesting thing, and I was already talking to some people. So thank you for having me in your course, and I wish you all the best. I really believe you have something very, very, very valuable to offer to people, and people should take advantage of your wisdom, which is unparalleled, and the way you explain everything. You are like the bridge between science and consciousness, between body and the mind. And that's amazing, the way you put everything into perspective, and you give the tools that people need to process these things. Otherwise, they can face a lot of unnecessary challenges that they don't need, which will put more wrinkles on their skin. So I think, right. And that young heart, like what you have, where that young heart is very important to have in order to live that long life, or thriving through your 80s, 90s, and all that. So I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
With your course, and hopefully we will, meet in person someday.
Of course, yes, Costa Rica. We'll do it.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
The magic. Thanks to you too. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye. Namaste.
Namaste.
All right, wonderful. I'm just glowing from this conversation. It was so powerful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Beautiful. I could have listened all day long.
Thank you. Well, I knew that with her experience in multicultures, and it was a way of bringing it to life. Wow. And then I can bring the science behind it, which I think it worked out very well. So it's perfect that you came and joined us. It's very nice.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
All right,
Yeah,
so we're done, right?
We're
And
good.
it's late in India right now, right? It says
yeah, it's around around 12:30. Not that late because I usually work into late nights. During the day, I can't concentrate on my work. So.
Well, you know what I missed today? That it's just because I had to do this masala dosa and some sambar.
Okay, when you come to India, I'll make Indian food. To Costa Rica, I will make Indian food for you.
Ooh,
Maybe
how
not
wonderful.
masala dosa
I
because
love
it's a
Indian
bit
food.
complicated to make.
It is, yes. A lot of work, actually.
A lot
Yeah.
of preparation, yeah.
Yes.
But something else. I can
Well,
make you
thank you.
some
Thank you
nice
so much.
curries and all
Oh,
that
of course.
stuff. In
Looking
fact, I
forward
was
to it.
already talking with these event organizers in Costa Rica. Yesterday, I was talking and they were very excited about the idea. We are thinking of doing like a 2-3 day workshop there, and we'll get sponsors from hotels, and we are planning it. So it
Wonderful.
might take
Maybe
a
we can
little
do
time.
something with Shift there later. That'd be nice.
Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
nice too, with
Well,
Shift.
team, thank you very much. And my pleasure to see you all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.